What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing? Welcome back to Endure, Believe, Rise. I hope this message reaches you in good energy. I hope you and your loved ones are in good health. So this is going to definitely be a long video. Um, it might even be several videos long, and we're going to talk about quite a bit today. So before we get into that, it's going to be on the topic of health and the prioritization of health, and what does that mean? I want to shout out one person in particular because we did have a detailed and long conversation about this topic. Her name is Miss Merlo. I don't want to necessarily give her whole name. I didn't get the chance to ask her if she wants me or if I'm able to give her whole name. I was able to ask her if I could shout her out and to bring her up in this video. So shout out to her if she wants me to after I'll post her page so you guys can know who I'm talking about just for clarity purposes. Um, Keep her in your thoughts and prayers. She's transitioning in her life and making her mental health and her health in general a prioritization, which is an awesome thing. And not that she's in a state of crisis or anything, but we all could use some prayers, right? And keep her in your prayers, right? As I keep you all in my prayers, of course. um so the topic that I want to talk about is a topic that we and her were talking about, which is health and prioritization of health. And it wasn't just her; it was quite a few people actually that I was talking to about this, and it is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. Will always be near and dear to my heart. Will be something that I talk about in the future, have talked about in the past. And I want to talk about the fact that we neglect our health so many times, right? And we have four different genres of health, and I think that's the main area that can be improved, is the fact to let people know that we don't just have one area of health. We have several, mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. There are four different areas of your health, and in those four areas can be broken down even further, right? And we won't do all of that on any of these videos, but we will break down them a little bit. In that retrospect, what does it mean to have a prioritization of your health? So before we get into what it means to do that, there's two particular groups that I find do not have a prioritization of their health, right? And one is the male, and that's in specifically the black male, and the other is a mom or moms, and specifically single moms, right? Now, I did a review a few weeks ago on a guy. His name was Jason Wilson, and Jason Wilson talks about why in detail males are subject to neglect their health. And the reason why is we have so much responsibility, and we feel like by neglecting ourselves, we are being an honor to that responsibility. By neglecting ourselves, we are taking care of that responsibility, which couldn't be further from the truth. Neglecting yourself is not taking care of those who are dependent upon you to take care of them. It is actually putting their health and their safety and everything that they respond on in jeopardy. You know, it's the same situation when it comes to single moms. They believe neglecting themselves, denying themselves, not worrying about their health, not making their health the priority, is in turn how they can take care of their kids, how they make sure that their kids are taken care of. This is moms and single moms. You'd be surprised how much your mom neglects themselves to make sure that you have, right? Has neglected themselves to make sure you have, forfeits things to make sure that you have. It's what a mother, it's what a parent does. But even a male, whether they're single or not, or kids or not, you'll find men that neglect their health, both physical and mental. And the reason why, also another reason, if it's not to take care of their responsibility to their kids, if it's not to take care of their family, it's because they've been abused. They have trauma. They've opened up before and they've been mistreated. They've opened up before and they've had conflict. They've opened up before and it has caused them to be exposed or weak or judged, right? And this is counterproductive to the image and the standard that is put forth in society of what a male should be. Should be strong, invincible, powerful, providing, all these different things, right? So when you have that standard, then it's like, well, if I expose myself as struggling with mental, or if I expose myself with struggling with health, if I expose myself in these things, I'm no longer living up to that standard. And then I do try to do that. I do try to expose myself. I do try to open up, and then somebody abuses me. Somebody takes me for granted. Somebody is using me as you know. So these are the reasons why they tend to neglect themselves. And then same thing with mothers, especially single mothers. It's like, I'm not a single mother by design. Most women are not single mothers by design. They had an intention of starting a family. They had an intention of starting a legacy, of building a life with a person. And now something happened. Maybe that person died. Maybe that person decided they didn't want to be a father. Maybe that person got incarcerated. Maybe that person was unfit to keep in the life, and you had to make that decision to move on without them. But either way, it was not by design that I was going to raise these kids by myself. I took a chance with somebody, and it didn't work out. So now I don't want to expose myself to that defeat again. I don't want to expose myself to that pain again. So now I shield myself. And in that retrospect, a lot of those qualities of shielding yourself, of learning from your mistakes, of bettering yourself, of protecting yourself, I agree with 100%. What I don't agree with is then neglecting yourselves in a manner, doing these things in a manner that neglects your health, right? And especially if you're trying to use the excuse of, well, I'm taking care of my people, so I have no time to take care of myself. That's the same thing of riding around on a tire in a car and saying, I don't have time to get a new tire. I'm just going to ride this tire until it blows out. Now you're jeopardizing your life and everybody's life who's in the car. You're jeopardizing everybody who depends on you, right? And that's what we need to do to make sure that we take our health as a prioritization. So now it goes to the topic is, what does it look like to have prioritization as a health? It's not waiting until that tire blows out to get it replaced. It's not waiting until it's leaking every single day where I have to put air in it to get it replaced. It's getting that tire replaced as soon as feasibly possible, once we know that that tire must be replaced. When it doesn't have threads, when it has a hole in it and I had to get it, patched and repaired, when I can see the cracks on the wall of it. These are the same things with our health. We don't taking your health as a prioritization isn't waiting until you get sick to go to the doctor. Taking your health as a prioritization isn't, I now have a cold, I'm going to take medicine. Taking yourself as health as a prioritization isn't running around carelessly and then you end up breaking your leg and now you have to have a cast. These things, you should be very um attentive of what you're doing to make sure you don't break your leg. I mean, plain and simple, you should be eating your fruits and vegetables and drinking your water to make sure that you don't get sick, right? You should be having annual checkups to go get your health looked at so that you know if you're having these if you have the, what is the word I'm looking for, if you have if you're within the group that could be subject to having certain illnesses and diseases, and they need to be monitored, right? um and the same thing goes with for mental health. Having your mental health in priority doesn't mean I'm going to wait until I start breaking down crying every time somebody raises their voice at me to go see what's wrong with me. Having myself in mental having your mental health as a priority doesn't mean I'm going to wait until every little thing agitates me and I start blowing up and yelling at people. Having your health as a mental priority doesn't mean that I'm going to wait until I'm sitting around anxious to the point where I'm just unable to move forward in my day to day. That these are not this does not bode well to saying that you're taking priority over your health. You are being reactive, not proactive. And being a leader, you cannot be an effective, good leader being reactive to everything, waiting until your health deteriorates to go. So how do we have ourselves as a prioritization when it comes to health? That's routine maintenance. That's now, and that let me